What's up, John?
What's up, Zach?
We are live.
All
We are
right,
streaming. Did you get the
streaming.
chat up this time so you can talk to people?
Did I get the chat up this time so I could? Yes.
All right, hang on. Oh, there we go. Can you still hear
Oh,
me?
your mic switched away.
Is it better now?
No, it's gone.
All right, how's this?
Much better.
Okay.
Your video is like lagging a lot.
Yeah. I'm running an illegal video streaming thing on the side here as well. Just trying to get some extra cash money.
Cash money.
Yeah. So I don't know how many people will join us. It looks like we've got one person on right now. That
Nice.
could also be me. But we are. Oh, I gotta try to turn the music off. As
Are
classy and
you
as
doing
nice
this
as
on
that is.
YouTube?
Yeah, we're going right to the YouTube.
All right.
It's the
Let's
most
see.
popular setting out there. Yeah. All right. So I should probably record everything for posterity. Um, IAEM annual conference. You went,
Yes.
and
I went. I saw. I conquered. IAEM. Yeah. So, first time experience. Some really big wins and
all right.
some things that I verify that's like, okay, maybe not for me, but other things I'm like, oh, this is excellent and great for the field. And so it's I feel like my opinion is the new guy in the room, and so you can take it for what you will. But in general, uh, would I go again? I think that's a good question. I
Yes,
think um, yes, I would probably go again. Um, Probably. So, in
he's
terms,
going
so
again. He's going
well,
again.
we'll if my staff says John go again, then I might be going again. But one of the greatest things about it, and something that you've talked a lot about, Zach, were the people. Now, it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. To be honest, I think there was probably less than 2,000
Oh,
people
interesting.
there. Yeah, which is probably about the same amount of people that go to the National Hurricane Conference.
Yeah.
However, that being said, I saw people I haven't seen in years there, and a lot of Facebook profile pictures I saw in person,
And they hadn't
and
been updated in a while, right?
they hadn't been updated in a while. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm pretty sure that's you, but that was you 10 years ago. It's time
Oh,
to get
that's
updated."
so funny. Yeah, I've had
But that was
this.
cool. It's like, all those people I've interacted with
Yeah.
online, and or, the biggest one probably for me was a guy named Mike Paddock, who I hadn't seen in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I was on the national strike team with him, and he's the no liaison, and so he went because NWS is trying to make inroads with emergency managers.
Sure.
And oh my gosh, what a huge opportunity to see him! And I saw some other friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and again, that networking piece that people talk about, I thought was fantastic. I really did. I got to sit and have lunch with people that I'd never met before or from different backgrounds, perspectives, and for those reasons, I'm like, this is great. This is the association part of IAEM
Yeah.
that I think is like they knock out really well.
Yeah.
Um, but there was like other things too. Like IAEM is owned by the parent company is an events management company. And that's very important for me because during lunch, I noticed that they didn't have any pop. And I was like, if you're an events management company, you better have some soda, you better have some pop. But that was my biggest takeaway. That's probably a pretty good takeaway.
That
Um,
seems like, in the big scheme of things,
you
not
understand.
terrible.
I needed some
I don't drink
caffeine.
soda, so
Oh, there you
it
go.
doesn't matter to me.
Maybe
Unless energy drinks, I guess those technically count. I do drink too many energy drinks.
another big win for me comparing to other conferences and trade shows I've been, I thought
Hmm.
IAEM did a fantastic job of getting people in front of vendors in the trade show.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, the trade shows they're just empty,
Yeah.
and they specifically incentivized people to go and hang out around the trade shows. Which, if you're going to spend money as a company, and we're a small company, I get it. I appreciate the fact that
Yeah.
they got them into a lot of different products and they actually worked well with their vendors. which allowed me as a participant to see all the different stuff that's out there and what people are trying to cater to towards emergency managers, which is pretty fun.
Did you see any super weird vendors that you were like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, there were.
I
I'm
knew it.
like why? Like, I specifically asked, like, instead of like trying to
You don't
say,
have to call
hey,
out names, but unless you
just
want
tell
it.
me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, give me your elevator pitch. Like, why are you here? Like, what's your call out? And they'd give me their pitch. I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's like 5% of lines, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I feel like probably 80 to 90% of the vendors made sense for being there,
Yeah.
and those who didn't probably was their first time or they were learning about it and they're looking for like one win.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities there for as well.
What's just as another caveat, there was a vendor that has been there, I think almost every time that I've gone, maybe at least the last couple of years that I had gone, and it was a carrier for like daycares and like child centers, and it was like it looks like some sort of tactical medical device thing, and basically you just slip babies in these sleeves, and then you can haul out like 20 babies at a
What?
time. Yeah.
No, I didn't see that. I would have loved
Oh,
that.
it's too
That's
bad. Yeah.
crazy.
That was it's always one of those things that people walk by. I mean, it's a great sales pitch. They didn't have to say anything because you're just like, what in the world? Because they have little dolls in it and it just
Yeah.
grabs your eye. But yeah, so MX is big and does seem like kind of fun. And they also kind of revolve a lot of the conference around it, like you were saying. So your sign up is usually at the MX area. Lunch is
Yeah.
at like the other end or in the area, depending on like which venue it is every year, but it's close by. And then they do contests and other stuff that's, just kind of nice to, walk around
Yeah.
and try to get some credit for it. And they have all the IEM picture booths and stuff up. And so, yeah.
It was fun to talk to emergency managers, specifically a friend of mine who moved from the Fed side,
Mm-hmm.
who had gotten the full suite of like anytime you dealt with a project or a product from a vendor, they
Yeah.
always get the full suite because it's federal.
Sure.
And now he's in local. He works for a city, and he's like, I didn't even know that there was like smaller versions of this. And I heard him specifically say to two different vendors, there's too many options.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I get it at the local level, and now there's like 50 different options for the same thing, and I had to like buy all the extras to be able to get what I get. He's like, I had no idea at the federal level. Like I basically had the suite of anything I wanted, and so that was a fun to hear his perspective on that because it's like he gets it now why local has to deal with so many more things than federal.
Yeah.
Federal is so spoiled and so many different ways.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There's a much
Go
larger
federal if
budget
you
at
wanna
the
be
federal.
spoiled. Yeah.
I mean, that's not terrible advice. You go do it at least for a few years, and you get to see it all, do it all, and get paid pretty well and have all the toys at your disposal. I mean, I want a
Yeah.
MERS. I want one of those mobile comm trucks, but I'm never going to get that in my like little volunteer local gig here.
You know, I thought there would be one of those. The closest one that we got was there was a company I think off the grid.
Yeah.
They do like, but it was like essentially just like lighting.
Yeah,
Like,
there's usually the volunteer group that does all the tech stuff that I'm going to get absolutely ripped apart for not remembering their name. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they usually have a comm vehicle there, and then there's the Nomad vehicles. They usually have something. They're like the super hardcore off-road command post stuff.
yeah. Again, I was looking for something that maybe
Yeah.
they had that outside or something, but there was a lot of construction outside.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
there's that. So if those are the pros, here's also another pro.
Okay.
Actually,
Should I
the
do like a
presenters
pro?
did their best.
Yes. Oh.
Is that a good nice way to say that? So it was really funny. Like I went to a couple different sessions and I was hearing the sidebars and I was talking to my friends.
Yeah.
And the most common feedback I got was that was really nice like session, but it didn't match the name.
Yeah.
They would walk into these things thinking it was something and it ended up being something else.
Changing emergency management forever. And then you go in and it's like HSEEP and how it's done.
Yes, exactly right. Or like There was one like integrating NWS to emergency management,
I know a
and
lot of
then
people who went to that.
honestly, the
What
whole
came out of
thing
it?
was just like about NWS's process.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
like it didn't like it's like what?
Little bait and
Because I think
switch or some marketing.
yeah, I think the emergency managers are getting a lot better at marketing because of their titles. But you have to surprise and delight.
Yeah.
And the the presenters themselves, I was sitting there and I had the honest question of, have you actually implemented what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who are getting up at IAEM as a way to like booster their resume, and that's I 100% did that myself,
Yeah.
like 100%. And so like I kudos to those people, and they're really well prepared. However, um, we need to get more practitioners to give presentations. I think that would help out the field a lot as
I
well.
wonder too if because everyone's basically like, God, what year are we ever going to come out of this pandemic? I feel like every year we're like, this is the year we're out of the pandemic. But I wonder
2052.
how many people are just rusty, right? Like
Mm.
you haven't done maybe as much outreach because I know like when I did my presentation there, like I had done 50 presentations that year. Like I was just all over the place doing these talks. And so it was like easy to sort of like do it. And I guess if, it's like a muscle, right? If you don't exercise it, it atrophies. And then,
Yeah. I mean, this is a field of diminishing skills for
yeah.
sure.
And it's
And you have
also
to
like the audience there. It's a tough audience. Like you're talking sometimes like you have every range from like the person who's never done never responded to anything to the head of FEMA, like,
yeah.
so that can be really challenging and it's easy to get distracted, but that's a good point. And it's also, I think I plan to bring this person on at some point, but it's about the, how I did stand-up comedy and I used that skill set to actually get
Mm.
better at presenting and like talking about stuff. Cause you can be dynamic and like, uh, inject
Being
humor when it's not going well to draw people back in and like how do you like communicate to a totally diverse audience that maybe doesn't even want you to be there, but presenting your because there's I think what I've found a lot of times at the presentations is like I look at the sort of abstract in the title like you did and I'm like, oh man, this is amazing, and then you look at the stuff that they've done and you're like, that's why didn't you talk about this, like what happened up there, and it's because they don't know how
yeah.
to present.
Yeah, I think we could all. It's funny enough, we talk about coordination and collaboration a lot in the field. We all talk about it,
Yeah.
but we're kind of really bad at coordinating, collaborating, communicating.
Yeah. I would say
And
almost communicating more than anything, and it is the most important skill of an emergency manager.
yes, and yet it's one of the weakest. Uh, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I guess I have a lot of
Well,
hypotheses on
Jerry
that.
Seinfeld had the joke that the statistic is people are more afraid of public speaking than dying, which means you'd rather be in the casket than up giving the eulogy.
Yeah, exactly right. Maybe that's true. I mean, that's maybe that's what's happening a little bit. I think one thing that if they didn't make the presenters pay to
Yeah.
attend, they would probably attract more talent in the presentations. Honestly,
Yeah.
I thought that was a little silly when I would talk to a presenter and they're like, yeah, like I did it so I could get a little bit of a discount. Like, oh, well, that's why like it was mediocre. Like, and no discredit to the person, they're
Right.
doing their best, but I want to be able to go and feel like I'm learning.
I mean, honestly, I think we talked about it earlier in the year. I wanted to submit a presentation and I completely missed the deadline. And it was like, I had no idea that they'd already opened and closed because it's not well like broadcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, let's be honest, if you might be a brilliant person, but you don't have, IAM fees, you don't have all the money that you can spend on the registration, on the uh, annual cost, the flights, the blah blah blah. I mean, by the time you get down there, you're thousands of dollars potentially in, and so all the folks, especially people who maybe are grant funded where they can't spend money, like because not all grants allow this. You might have people who are just they have no budget for it. You might have people who are in the research field who like are doing really innovative and cool stuff, and they have no money for it. Like you're just missing out, I think, on a lot of voices. Volunteers is the other thing that in this sort of the same vein. I think people forget, especially at IAM, because we're all at like summer camp there. Like we just all know each other. It's a small community and stuff. That there's thousands of emergency managers out there who are entirely unpaid, totally volunteer, have no budget,
Yeah.
either doing it because they don't know there's no other choice. Vermont, my state in particular, there's like 50 of us that are actually paid to do this. Everybody else is volunteer. And I know plenty of volunteer emergency managers that are probably better than I will ever be at this, but they're never going to get that platform to tell their story. I mean, they'll go to like the state conference. Even the state conference is kind of like, it can be tough if you're on the wrong end of the state and you have to buy a hotel room. You may not have money for that. So to travel across the country is like,
and
completely.
To Savannah. Like I understand they're not going to Savannah again, probably.
I think they're next year's the last year in Long Beach. So Savannah's done. I think Long Beach is done next year. Colorado Springs, which sounds amazing. I can't wait. I definitely want to go to Colorado Springs. And then I forget.
One person who's bashing on Colorado Springs, and they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" She says, "Colorado." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "No wonder." I was like, "Everybody else will be really excited."
No, if we're gonna bash locations, we bash Grand Rapids, because Grand Rapids in November is not where I want to be.
By the way, I specifically wanted to talk to people who had their CEM.
Oh yeah,
and
it's a bit of a cult, Like once you're in, you're in, right?
Like,
yes.
Little, like badge thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I'm gonna put my bias aside here, because those who know me best and who's heard my podcast have kind of railed on it. Like, okay, let me just check this out. And based off of again, I was only there for a couple days.
Sure.
And so my sample size is small, but I think I probably had 50 conversations. And I would say it was still probably half and half, where I was like, okay, like this half definitely somebody I would hire as a small business owner, somebody I would have hired when I was in the federal government, and the other half I was like, oh, you got this to be able to like prove to somebody else,
flex,
that, like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I found that the same thing. Like I actually talked to a university who they get a lot of inquiries about PhDs. And they honestly didn't know, the director of the program didn't know if the people asking for the PhD was because they wanted to learn more or they wanted to be validated against stakeholders.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do a PhD to be, quote unquote, for validation. And I thought that was a really good feedback. And I thought it was good feedback about the CEM, honestly. It's like, why are you getting your CEM?
Yeah.
Do you want to be validated, or have you done all these things? I know a couple people who've done all this stuff, and they want to be able to say, like, I've done all this stuff without, like, the letters have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a flex there, right? Like, it still is a relatively small audience that has a CEM compared to like the overall industry.
Yeah, exactly right. And so it's like, okay, like there's pros for it and there's cons for everything. I still didn't feel the need after walking out of there to get my CEM, but I did say like, okay, there's a lot of value in working with IAEM.
Yeah.
And the other really, really big takeaway that I had was 100%. 10,000%. EM Weekly host Zach Borst should be the official podcast sponsor of IAEM. Not only are you a big fan, you know all the stuff, and you've been going. And quite frankly, the other podcast that was there was like this no-name podcast that nobody follows. And I was like, how about you go on with the thousands of listeners and EM Weekly?
Let's
so
just let's do it next year. I am so again, IEM, fantastic organization. To sort of get through a lot of their noise, you have to be like completely devoted to it. And I'm not. Like, it's an association. It's supposed to like assist me. And often I feel like I put more in than I get out.
Yeah.
But the last couple of years, I've kind of dropped off the radar. I was really, really active, doing lots of stuff, enjoyed it. And then during the pandemic, I felt like there wasn't like I don't know. I just, for some reason, it stopped sort of resonating with me. Now that like we can do a lot of in-person stuff again. And like I, especially after seeing everyone down who went to Savannah, I wish I had gone. I'm back all in. Like I was sort of off of it, but like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
you can
oh God,
replace
does
it
this
next
mean
year.
it's going to be like a whole other thing? Cause like you can just get so wrapped up in it. Like right now I'm in the state association caucus, which is a new one. So it's pretty, like we really only have a couple meeting. I think it's one meeting a month right now. It's still kind of getting spun up. So it's like easy to get into. Some of the other caucuses, like the University and College Caucus, which I love, like they were active all the time. Like it was like almost its own thing, and I just was so busy. And like like I loved the network and being a part of it. But I'm like, man, would I want to do that again? But if you don't do that stuff, then it's really hard to sort of take full advantage of IAM. It's the same with the CM. Like you almost feel like you have to do it because you're already paying. Like, what else are you getting out of it? Like my annual dues, like I get the newsletter. I'm saying like as someone who is fairly actively using it, if you're not doing that, like if you're not part of a caucus or a community within IAM, I could see it being like, what is the point of this? Like just to go to the conference, then why do I even pay the fee if I'm just gonna? Because you can go to the conference as a non-member, you just pay like an extra. I think it's like $100 or $200. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think they just need to, and this is an argument I've heard a million times over, is they need to better argue why it's so expensive. Is it, I mean, like, worst case scenario, is this some sort of gatekeeping thing? I hope not. That's like the cynic in me. That's like, you're trying to like keep a certain audience within IEM. Or best
Yeah.
case scenario, they're investing it in something that's making the field better, which I think that's where everyone asks is like, what is this money going
the money
towards? And
going
it could
to?
be, yeah, I
It's
think,
lining pockets, dude.
yeah.
100%. They don't even
uh,
use soda. Yeah.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah. The soda budget. Just imagine how much they could have, made there.
They're charging people $1,000 to be
But
there.
then
There's
I'm
200
like,
people there. Plus
but I
vendors.
love the organization. Like it's done a lot for me, and it's like it's very. And I think everyone's conflicted. That's a part of this organization, right? Like,
It's because it's run by an events management company.
but I think like if that is sort of the drive behind everything, then they should lean into more, like at least another conference, like maybe two a year, move it around so that there's more availability, some more equity in it.
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody from California would have been able to go.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, just the plane ticket is thousands
Yeah.
of dollars. Last time I forget how much it cost me when I went to California from Vermont, but it was like an 18-hour travel day because of there's like a layover and then some sort of weather issue. Then you land in Long Beach. So like, or sorry, you land in LAX. So it's like however long LA traffic is to get down to Long Beach. So it just turns into like a huge thing. And that's not to say I loved Long Beach itself. The Queen Mary was there. There's a comedy place right across. It was, I think, one of the not the Comedy Cellar. I don't know, some famous comedy venue. And then there's like a little like kind of, I don't know, like PF Chang's and stuff like that there. But like there's not much else. There was the aquarium. The aquarium was awesome. And then everything else is like, you're going to go to LA. And so like in that case, IAM needs to like have everything there to keep people engaged. And I don't sort of feel like that is the case. Savannah, like it's sort of naturally, there's action around there and stuff.
Well,
It's just fun.
tough because everybody had to cross the river.
Yeah, I like that though. That was fun. I think that's like a
did you?
fun little gimmicky thing. Yeah. I
okay.
don't know. That's like, it's kind of
I
neat.
mean, yeah, I guess it could be like, yeah, if you played it well.
Yeah.
Right? The ferry just needed to happen more often then.
Oh yeah.
There was like
Interesting.
45-minute wait period.
Oh, yeah, that was not the case when I was there last. There was like maybe 10 minutes or something, 15
Oh my
minutes.
gosh.
It just cycled all the
It
time.
would take so long to get there. Like, so that was 45 minutes one way. So 45 minutes and then wait. So it was like an hour and a half between each
Oh,
one.
wow.
And then, they capped it at like 150 people, obviously, to get
Right.
on. So then you'd like, people were waiting there for a while. And I'm taking Ubers to the other side.
Wow. Yeah, that was not the case. That's never been the case since
Maybe
I've been
that's a
there.
COVID problem. Maybe
Could
that's
be.
something else.
Yeah. Or yeah,
That's
some
really
sort
not
of.
on them, but especially if they bid it out like 6 years prior,
Well, I mean, that's the thing though. Like if you're spending that much money, check to make sure that, because people who want to come back to this are going to, comment on that. Because that was actually like, I think one of the things that was really cool was just how easy and fast it was. Like I thought it was, because compared to an Uber is like 45 minutes around, and being on the boat was just fun.
I will say I ended up taking technically a Lyft.
Mm.
This lady shows up in a red minivan, and she had like inside it was like a rave. There
Yeah.
were like 50 different like LED lights, things were
You were
flashing.
down. You were like, all
Yeah,
right, I'm good with this.
I was like sitting in the back, like I feel like I have to dance or yeah.
Yeah.
The system is down.
Yeah. So, anyways, the critique is, I think, always what does the money go to, and why can't we get more some way? And I know there's scholarships and stuff, but there needs to be a very easy process. Even if they're like, we're going to give away like a lottery, just people can sign up. For a small, you have to be a agency of like 5 or less people. Everyone submits their name, and it's a lottery, and you get free access or something.
Yeah, I would have
Um,
gone years before if it wasn't for the cost because I'm
yeah.
not a member
Yeah.
and just to see what it was like. And like as a guy who's like, okay, like I'm not a hard no. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went to like say like, do I want to come back? And there was a lot of reasons why I do want to come back, mostly to see all my friends and to network.
I mean,
And
that's
like
why a
for
lot of
those
people go.
reasons, like I would go.
But you got to
But
put up or shut up next time. You got to do a presentation.
yeah, you want me to not only go but give a
Oh
presentation?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Because
get
you're saying
paid.
you want good content, right?
I get paid to do presentations. If I had to pay to do a presentation,
Oh, you're gonna be there anyways, right?
oh yeah, might as well. I mean, good discount. And that goes back to the argument, the original argument, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then they give a couple other keynotes. Oh, here's my other thing is
yeah,
keynote should be a keynote. You can't have a keynote 3 times a day. You're like, oh, this is the keynote for
yeah.
this hour, and you're like, wait, what?
There was, yeah, yeah, and
No.
it's which
And people,
sometimes you kind of get duped. Like you have like some really good keynotes, and then you have some where you're like, "What? This was a session. You somehow snuck me into a session. This could have been in a much smaller room."
yeah, there was one in particular that I ended up leaving. I was like, I looked at Pete Gaynor. He was sitting there with me. He brought me in. I was like, I can't last.
You're
He's
like
like,
deuces, I'm out.
yeah. So I left, and he's like, I'm gonna stay. And I walked out, and not only 2 minutes later, he walked out. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean there was some really good ones. The Route 91, is that the country music festival shooter in Las Vegas area.
Yep.
There was one on I think it was Aruba, and how they were hit, and then how they sort of managed because they're like so
'Cause they got like
isolated.
wiped off the face of the earth, basically,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And then there was one on the kids from Katrina, who's actually one of the co-authors was actually, I worked at the same university as her and got to go to her class and do some presentations, which was really fun. But they
Yeah.
talked about the kids and how they were growing up, and the effects of Hurricane Katrina. Because like, we think of recovery as like a fairly finite time, right? Like from like the disaster till things are into some normalcy. But that's not really true. For most people, your recovery is lifelong, or at least decades long. I mean, if you're a
Oh yeah.
kid, that's it. That's the rest of your life. Whatever you're experiencing there, if it's not addressed as a child. So they talked about like their financial, how they're doing financially, how they're doing socially, medical, and just the follow up. And like, you're like, oh my God, like we failed these kids. Like a lot of these kids left rough, areas, and then continued to live rough lives. Like never got, like I hate to say it because it's not really FEMA's position and it's not really how it's supposed to be, but post disaster, we really should try to make things better, right? Like we are either mitigating against the disaster, trying to bring
Well, they're
people
not
up out
incentivized
of.
to do that. The law,
Correct. Yeah.
the law literally says
Right.
return back to what it was.
Yeah.
So
Which is so stupid. That is the dumbest thing we could possibly do. I
it
think
is
there is
just
some
the
Stafford
dumbest.
Act updates and stuff that are currently, people are fighting for, but the goal should always be to make it better in whatever way you can. And I know it's up to like nonprofits and philanthropists and all this other stuff to sort of do that now, but yeah, listening to that talk. I mean, so again, there are some good ones. Then there was like some magician that I was like, what is this? Like, give me a break.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Disaster recovery. Yeah.
And they'll get like the corporate, comedian type crowds every once in a while. And sometimes those are good, sometimes they're bad. And I get it. Like it's a show, right? Like you have to sort of try to hit everything. But, overall, I'm glad you at least enjoyed it enough that it sounds like you're going back. I hope
Oh yeah. I
you
actually
will
had no
present.
qualms.
Yeah.
Like definitely. Okay, let's be real for your audience.
Yeah.
Hater for sure. But I am a person who, even if I have an opinion, I'm willing to update my
Yeah.
opinion, and I usually have an opinion on everything.
Yeah.
So that's usually not the problem. The problem is if you can't update it. And there was enough wins where I was like, this is really great. However, there was one really big negative,
Oh
real
boy.
talk,
Yeah.
that I was like, this is why nobody respects you. It was the freaking crayon wall.
The crayon wall.
They
Oh,
had the
yeah. Are you
white
like
piece of paper where
Mark?
people could draw them with crayons.
Yeah.
I was like, there's not a single professional who's outside of your field who showed up and thought, wow, I can respect these people. They're drawing like my little my IAEM with my crayons. Like, nope. If we want to professionalize the field, then we have to act like professionals a little bit. And I
Yeah.
know it's like a kind of a space to like get down, but come on, crayon wall.
Crayon
Okay,
wall.
somebody did draw disaster tough on there though. It was not me, and I was like,
No way.
oh
No.
yeah, I got a picture of it,
Oh, that's
so
cool.
that was kind of cool.
Oh, so you
So
actually
hey,
did like the crayon wall. Never mind. Crayon wall's in.
yeah, it was still a negative overall, but I do think it's smart to try to find creative ways,
Yeah.
but we do need. There were several presentations about professionalizing the field. I
Yeah.
talked to several programs about it. A lot of people are talking about that right now, like how to up our game. And oh, by the way, I was gonna do this whole thing about like khaki pants. I was gonna take a picture of everybody's.
Yeah.
Everybody's wearing black pants and black shirts. Oh yeah, black
What are we,
black is in
morning?
an
Are we
emergency
in morning?
management.
Yeah. Oh, that's too
I
bad.
kind of like
Khaki
it
goes with
actually.
everything.
I think emergency managers should wear black. I think because we kill all the fun. And no, just kidding. Wear black
How
out for
interesting.
emergency
Yeah.
services. Yeah.
I would have thought like coyote and like military green, the olive drab would be popular.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I wore green pants the
There you
second
go.
day. But
Well, honestly, so just so everyone knows, I did not prompt John on this. In fact, John, as soon as he got back, was sick. In fact, probably most of you coming back from IAM are probably sick because for a lot of folks, this is probably the closest you've been to large groups of people in months, if not
they
years.
they sent out a big thing saying, "Hey, a bunch of people tested positive for COVID."
No way. Did they really?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, this morning.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
we kind of
unfortunately,
expect that.
yeah.
So
And hopefully everyone's doing well. Get your vaccine before the next one. But
yeah.
cool. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It sounds like you're not quite an evangelical of the cause yet, but maybe next year. Maybe we'll get you active in first. We'll get you to get the membership, and then we'll get you active in
That will
something.
never happen.
I think it will. I think so. That's the thing. It is a giant voice. Like we're doing a lot of really cool stuff. I think that we are going to be able to maybe push the needle for them in certain ways where they won't. Because a lot of people within the
I will become
organization
a
I
fan
found
of.
are very safe. Like they don't want to like rock the boat too much.
Yeah.
And I think having an organization like ours that is not and doesn't care and wants to kind of burn the system down could be a good counter to that attitude.
Yeah.
And if they could embrace change like the way that we want to, and we could push them to, take a little bit more risk and be faster. Like they're very slow. It's a very bureaucratic organization. I think that would be a good, because it is an association, right? That's the point, is to get people together. And organizations like ours and others that like we consider our peers and like want to work with, we should try to get them because that is the large organization to like adapt to new stuff. So the new stuff that we're doing, I think would benefit IAM tremendously. Whether or not they'd
Yeah.
embrace it, I don't know.
If they were willing to uh, be the organization that people need them to be,
Yeah.
I'd be really excited for that. Like,
Oh.
and if if you were their official sponsor, I'd probably sign up. And if I found out where the money was going and it was going to me,
Oh, if I'm maybe
then
it'll go to me. Maybe that's the secret.
yeah, that's
We got
the
to get
real
in that cheddar.
gotta get that
Got to
gotta
get
get that cheese.
cash
That
rules
bread.
everything around me.
Is that
Cream,
why pizza's so
get the
good? 'Cause
money.
it's cheese and bread. Um, get that meat. Uh, so I'm just really excited about the opportunities for the future with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do want to burn old things away that are not effective anymore. They could do that in tandem with us. So it'll be interested to see what happens over the next couple of years. I think IAEM is very aware of the readiness lab of Doberman of EM Weekly, and it's essentially time that we kind of have high level conversations about like how do we push the field to the next level, especially because they're poised to do that and they're just not doing it.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
how
for
do we
sure.
do that? Those are kind of the things that we'll be probably talking offline, over the next year or so, to see if we can start moving the needle. Maybe get away from the crayon walls and start doing like, you know, hologram hologram stuff. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
I got a laser printer. I'll bring the laser printer down. I mean,
Dude,
it's
let's
not
do it.
very portable, but we could laser print stuff.
We do. Yeah,
Sweet.
real time.
All right. Well, if you went to IAM, we'd love to know your thoughts. What went well? What didn't go well? You can keep it anonymous. You can keep it. I don't care. Use your name. Like, we're not afraid.
Username, okay, coward.
Yeah, IAM again, great organization, but it is very much locked into sort of the old school emergency management. But the networking there, especially at the conference, it is hugely valuable. And I mean, like, it's kind of the EM vacation, right? That's like I call it summer camp all the time because it's like you get all your buddies back together. It excites you. Like I found like I get pumped up for it. So let us know what you thought. Let us know what you think of the Colorado Springs. Are you going to go next year? What was your opinion? Like, subscribe, thumbs up, 5 stars, high five.